Right now at 6, you're looking at images that span nearly 2 decades. Columbine, Virginia Tech, Sandy Hook, and the latest in Uvalde, Texas. All heartbreaking images moments after deadly school shootings.
You are about to hear from the man in this picture, a former school shooter here in Ohio. Former is the word that he would stress tonight, and we want to reassure you we are not simply providing a platform to glorify these incidents.
No, instead, the Ohio man tells 10 investigates the lessons he learned from his own shooting could help prevent the next one. Here's Chief Investigative Reporter Bennett Haberly.
More than 14 years have passed since this headline first appeared, since this image showed armed officers with guns trained on a 15-year-old. All that time, more than 5,000 days have given Jeff Javnikar plenty of time to reflect on what he did.
I hurt thousands of people just by doing that. I mean, I scared all those kids in the school that day. Their parents were worried for them. I mean, parents of friends, and it's like a ripple effect.
The Jeff Javnikar you see now tells me he's far removed from the 15-year-old pictured here, who he says was bullied, overweight, and depressed. Far removed from the Jeff seen in the back row of this photo, taken inside a juvenile detention facility where he was incarcerated for nearly 18 months. Time he earned because of what he did.
When I was there and I shot the first shot, it's almost like it made me realize that it was really happening, and it wasn't just all an idea in my head anymore. And it scared me. And
it scared you?
Yeah. But I know I was scaring hundreds of other kids, but what I'm trying to say is it almost kicked me back into reality out of that fantasy or delusional mindset I had, and it just hit me that I was really doing what I was thinking about doing.
At that moment, you realized you were a school shooter?
Yep.
This file news footage shows an oddly familiar scene in America. The looks of concern on the faces of parents and students. What you don't see is Jeff, who was eventually let out to authorities by 2 administrators. Inside Willoughby, Ohio's South High School, Jeff described what unfolded. 2 shots. One hit the ceiling, the other a trophy case.
It happened so fast. I turned a corner as soon as I shot that first shot, and I met somebody face to face, another student. And he was like mid-walk, and he stopped. It was because I just shot the shot, turned the corner, and I saw his eyes. I'll never forget that. He looked at me like, oh my God, just out of shock. And I told him that I'm not gonna hurt you, I'm not gonna hurt anybody. And I was almost like crying, I was trembling, and he ran.
No one was hurt, but Jeff had been hurting and spent weeks planning to kill himself, but do it in what he called a bigger way.
So for me, it was more so about releasing a message or letting people know how I really felt inside, not to bully kids, not to mess around with kids. So it was more about just letting people know that message, but obviously I did it in the wrong way.
So almost in the way of the sense of like you wanted people to understand the hurt you were enduring.
Yeah.
Even if that meant hurting others.
Yeah, and another thing I wanted to make clear too is before the day that it happened,
Mm-hmm.
I probably had some ideas of hurting certain individuals, possibly, people that picked on me growing up. But the day that it happened, I actually, and I can say this knowing it's 100% true to myself, I did not have any thoughts of hurting anybody that day while I was doing it.
Jeff credits 2 school administrators with saving his life. They convinced him to put the gun down away from his own head. During his time incarcerated, Jeff says he finished high school, got counseling, thought about his feelings and his actions, and his previous fascination with school shootings. In the months leading up to his incident, Columbine had become a focus of his internet searches.
So I think the sensationalism of how much media attention they get did play a role in me wanting to do something similar in that way.
Yeah. Is there a sense of irony now because we're giving media attention to what happened with you?
Yeah, but I hope this is different. I mean, I hope I can share a message or share something that will help somebody or something.
Jeff's experience differs greatly from other similar shootings in that no one was hurt or killed. But 10 Investigates found similarities between Jeff's story and what FBI research has shown. In this 2018 report, the FBI analyzed more than 60 active shooter cases and found nearly half had suicidal ideation. The shooters also showed warning signs and concerning behaviors that those close to them may have seen but failed to act on. In many instances, the FBI wrote, the concern stayed between the person who noticed the behavior and the active shooter. Early recognition, the FBI says, of these incidents may represent critical opportunities for detection and disruption. Jeff said his mother knew something was wrong, but others around him missed the warning signs.
Yeah, I'd say I should probably bring a gun to school, and it was almost like me trying to tell them in a way. And I remember one friend even the week before, for like 2 days in a row, he saw me in the hallways. He goes, "You bring the gun to school?" Like joking around. So yeah, there were definitely warning signs. If somebody's talking like that, I think it should definitely be reported or told, regardless of if you're afraid, if they're just joking.
Yeah.
Because
When you were saying this to friends, were you hoping someone would say, "Hey, what are you talking about?"
it was almost like I was hoping deep down that it would lead to somebody stopping me, what I was planning on doing.
Each school shooting in America is jarring, but for Jeff and his family, it prompts a reliving of his tragedy averted. It is why, he says, he chose to share his story now, in hopes it will prevent the next one.
I just wanted to share my perspective that how terrible a thing it was that I did, the consequences I had to endure, how not worth it was, and how I wish I could have just talked to somebody instead.
Bennett Haberly, 10 Investigates.
Well, Jeff now has a full-time job, and he has a girlfriend, and he enjoys working out. Now, in his view, there's no binary solution to stopping these shootings. He sees a need for both increased gun control and a focus on addressing mental health. 10 Investigates looked at 25 school shootings in Ohio dating back to 1970. Nearly half have occurred since the year 2000. Now, of all the shooters, only 3 had a previous diagnosis of mental illness. And if you're someone who wants to talk to a professional, suicidal or not, there is help out there for you. A new national hotline just launched at the beginning of the month. Just dial 988 to get help.